They billed this as Lita's first appearance on Smackdown in 20 years. This was a very last-minute thing. They literally contacted her the day before to ask her if she would fly in and do the show, and they flew her in later that same day. Michael Cole interviewed her in the ring and asked why. Why now? Why the Royal Rumble? And she mentioned main eventing, all the things that she's done. First woman to main event Monday Night Raw when the women had never done that before. I think she mentioned Trish, but she did that already before that. She did that with Stephanie McMahon. So she had the chance to do that, and, she's in the Hall of Fame. But when I was around, the women didn't have a Royal Rumble for themselves, and now they do. And she thinks she's got one more run left in her. They completely ignored the fact that she was already in the Royal Rumble back in 2018. But, they're acting like this is her first. Or maybe back then, I guess she didn't think that she had another run left in her, but now she does. I don't know, but this brought out Charlotte Flair. And she promised to eliminate Lita at the Rumble. Lita made fun of Charlotte's giant pumpkin head. Flair brought up retiring Lita's best friend, Trish Stratus, at SummerSlam 2 years ago. And Lita then hit her with the safest twist of fate that you have ever seen. This was fine. The thing that it does that I like is that it creates a little side story, heading into the Royal Rumble with Charlotte. That match is going to be all about Charlotte Flair, the way that the men's Rumble was all about Brock Lesnar a couple of years ago. And whoever eliminates her is going to be, is going to be a big deal. It's going to get a big reaction. That's going to be the big moment of this year's Women's Rumble. I think there's a good chance it'll be Alexa Bliss doing that. And Charlotte probably will eliminate Lita, because Lita is not going to WrestleMania to challenge for the title. Now, Fightful.com had the story this week that Lita had discussions with AEW last year about possibly coming in to work a program with Britt Baker around the time of the All Out pay-per-view in September, but both sides failed to come to an agreement. Can you imagine the reaction of Rebby Hardy if Lita had signed with AEW? I mean, even as recently as I feel like it was only a few years ago, she was popping off about her on Twitter when people were tagging Rebby in like old photos of Team Extreme. Yeah, they're trying to get her all stirred up. And she was going off on Lita and calling her, certain names. And boy, she's ride or die when it comes to Matt. I'll say that. And she made it very clear what she really thinks about Lita. But look, I'm glad it didn't happen. I'm glad she didn't go to AEW. I'm happy that fell through. If the idea was to do a match at All Out between Britt Baker and Lita, we ended up getting a really good match between Britt Baker and Kris Statlander instead. And even though Statlander lost, it was more important, I think, to have one of their own stars in that match than Lita for what may have been just a one-shot or a very short-term thing. That's something I would expect to see WWE do, because they very often will bring back old stars, legends, big names. Tony Khan obviously will bring in, as he has no issues bringing in former WWE talent, but not usually for a short, like, one-and-done type of thing. If they wanted Lita as an undercard attraction against somebody, that's one thing. WWE did that with Charlotte and Trish at SummerSlam. That was a fun match, and it wasn't for a title. Baker and Lita for the championship, that I'm glad it never happened. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins went face-to-face at the end of the show on Friday, and while there were a few good lines, especially the line that Roman got off about Seth's wife, when it was over, I was left very underwhelmed. I'm sure the match is going to be much better than this segment turned out to be, especially the end. I just thought it was very lame. Rollins tried to get him to do a Shield fist bump at first. Reigns said that's beneath him. Rollins pointed out that every time we're in the ring together, one-on-one in a championship match, I've beaten you. There's 3 things in life that you can count on: death, taxes, and Rollins beats Reigns every single time. But Roman said, "Brother, I'm in God mode right now." And he said Seth dresses like a clown, and if he had his choice of a megastar from Monday Night Raw to face off with, he would have picked Rollins' wife over Seth himself. And that's when the Usos tried to jump Rollins, but he managed to avoid them and he escaped down the aisle. I think the whole heel against heel dynamic hurts things a little bit, but it left me wondering if this is the start, the early start, of a Seth Rollins babyface turn. Could we be heading towards babyface Seth Rollins? You know, him beating Big E clean the way he did on Monday also made me think that they might be slowly shifting him in that direction. And maybe they are. But he's not there yet. And until the Rumble, I think there may be some more awkward moments where it's tough for the crowd to choose sides because they've been conditioned to dislike both of these guys and not cheer either one of them. I mean, Roman still gets cheers, but, you know, it's just like, oh, well, who are we supposed to root for here? I am looking forward to the match, though. I think the match is going to be kick-ass. Both title matches at the Rumble are going to be great. Even the Rumble matches themselves, you know, they can be hit or miss, but the Rumble has always been, you know, one of my favorite shows all year. So they've managed to put together a pretty solid card so far, all things considered. It sucks that Sasha Banks got hurt, though, and she will not be in the Women's Rumble. And condolences to Sasha Banks and her family. I read that her father just passed away on Friday night, Snoop Dogg's uncle. From what I understand, I don't think Sasha had much of a relationship with her father, her birth father, but it is still her father. When I did my 2022 predictions last Sunday, I predicted that the women's title matches at WrestleMania would be Becky Lynch against Bianca Belair. I mean, I've been saying that for probably a month and a half now. And I said Charlotte Flair would defend against Sasha Banks. And I hope, even though she's going to be out for a little while, she ain't going to be gone for that long. You know, supposedly, she could probably be back later sometime next month. And so I hope that despite the injury, she could, you know, come back with more than enough time to build to that match against Charlotte at WrestleMania.